Hey Cake Chums, and welcome back to another video. Before we get started, let me give you a bit of background on Claire Saffitz. Now, Claire is an American food writer, chef, and YouTube personality who originally found fame on the Bon Appetit YouTube channel, particularly during the series Gourmet Makes, where she would essentially try and reverse engineer popular kind of snacks and chocolates and things like that and try and recreate them from scratch using gourmet ingredients. It was addictive viewing, and like many people, I fell completely in love with Claire, watching her put herself through the trials and tribulations of trying to create some truly iconic snacks. Now, when everything went down with Bon Appetit last year, Claire was one of the many personalities who left the company and actually went out on her own, publishing her own New York Times best-selling cookbook, Dessert Person, and setting up her own YouTube channel. Now, if you're not already subscribed to Claire's YouTube channel, which incidentally is also called Dessert Person, then I'll link it down in the video description because it's well worth checking out. She produces weekly cooking videos where she recreates recipes from her book, including the one that we're going to be having a go at this week. Her video, which was uploaded back in July, is actually called How to Make the Perfect Birthday Cake, and those are her words and not mine. So naturally, you tell me that a cake is perfect and we're going to have to put it to the test. So in this week's video, we are going to be baking along with Claire's video, How to Bake the Perfect Birthday Cake, and then of course we'll give it a taste and see what we think. So I guess without much further ado, let's get to the video.
I am like having a hard time regulating my breath because of all this iced coffee.
Should I have had an iced coffee? I don't have an iced coffee.
Oh my god. Oh god. God. I nailed the cake.
For the record, I didn't choose this video because of all the chaotic energy, although again, regular viewers of Bon Appetit videos will know that this is essentially what we call the day 3 curse, but on one day.
Hey everyone, I'm Claire Saffitz. Welcome to my home kitchen.
That is literally her whole kitchen. She lives in New York, and we all know how tiny apartments are in New York unless you are ridiculously rich. So she films all of her YouTube videos in that tiny kitchen with a film crew. So I always moan about how tiny my studio is, but there is essentially me in here and lighting and cameras and all sorts. Hers is probably half the size of this, and yeah, madness.
Today I'm showing you an extremely classic recipe. It is for birthday cake, which to me means yellow cake. Yellow
cake is basically just a plain like vanilla sponge, but they have it has more egg yolk in it than whole eggs, so it really brings out that kind of yellowy color.
Which to me means yellow cake is a layer cake, so there's a little bit of architecture involved, but the recipe is super straightforward and easy, and it is just the ultimate celebration cake. Plus, you get to play with sprinkles. So it's a really fun recipe and the most delicious.
I'm gonna skip ahead.
When you have a birthday,
Yeah.
what kind of cake do you make?
I usually make my own birthday cake.
Same.
Sometimes I make like birthday pie. What?
I
don't want anyone else to make my birthday cake. In the past, it's been carrot cake because I just really do love carrot cake. I also love like a sponge cake, so a different, not a butter cake like this, but a lighter sponge. But I feel like when I am making a birthday cake for someone else, this is the cake. It's easy, it has a great texture, and I particularly love the frosting that I'm going to show you, which is an extremely easy chocolate frosting that is like better than it should be in a lot of ways. And it's cream cheese based, like all good frostings. Yeah, so it's really fun, and it's also the kind of thing that's really forgiving. Like if you're not a master cake decorator, froster, just throw a ton of sprinkles on it and it looks so fun, and like it's the kind of thing where you bring it to a table and people get excited. So that's one reason I love layer cakes. Okay, so I'm gonna use a stand mixer today.
Oh, I should probably get all these things ready. Hold that thought.
Okay, so I'm gonna use a stand mixer today.
My beautiful new pink K-Mix. Check out the video for that.
And then in terms of other equipment, you will need 3 cake pans.
3 cake pans. I actually only have 2 of the PME 8-inch aluminium ones, so for my third 8-inch I'm going to have to use this loose bottomed dark one, which isn't ideal, but never mind.
So for the cake layers, I have cake flour, baking powder.
I'm going to pause for that. Cake flour. So probably like many of you, I had no idea that cake flour was a thing. In America, there tends to be 3 main types of flour. They don't really have self-raising flour, but what they do have is all-purpose flour, which is what we would call plain flour. Cake flour, which is flour with a lower gluten content, and then bread flour, which we call strong white flour. Obviously there are other kind of more artisan ones, but these are like the 3 main ones we need to know about. And I did a bit of Googling, and according to the internet, to make cake flour, you essentially need to measure out 1 cup of plain flour and then remove 2 tablespoons of that, put it back in the bag, and replace them with 2 tablespoons of corn flour. Now, I've never done this before, but this is what the internet tells me, and we're going to cross our fingers that it works. Incidentally, I did buy the book. I'm not just baking along with the video, so I do have the recipe here. And what I will point out is that Claire not only gives the measurements in cups and tablespoons and things like that, but she also gives them in both metric and imperial measurements as well. So props to Claire, thank you for doing that. And yeah, if you're interested in getting the book, by the way, I will link it down in the video description. Dessert person.
So for the cake layers, I have cake flour, baking powder, 2 sticks of unsalted butter at room temp, a 1/4 cup of neutral oil, vanilla extract, granulated sugar, baking soda, kosher salt, buttermilk.
I'm going to pause her again there. Buttermilk. Now, buttermilk is readily available in British supermarkets. However, it wasn't readily available in my local supermarket this morning. So what I've done is I've taken the exact same measurement for the buttermilk and replaced it with whole milk. And then I've just added a tablespoon of acid. I've used white wine vinegar. Add that to the milk and then just leave it for about 5 to 10 minutes and allow it to separate. It looks revolting, but it will essentially do exactly the same job as buttermilk in your recipe. So really good tip, if you can't get buttermilk, you can make your own.
Yolks plus 2 whole eggs at room temp. I have some parchment rounds that I cut, plus I have like 1 silicone 8-inch round that I'll use. So I have 3 pans.
3 pans.
And I have some room temp butter right here. But coat everything really well. With cake pans, you really want something that has like at least...
Now obviously I normally use cake release spray, which you'll know if you've watched my videos before, but in this video Claire brushes the pans with room temperature butter using a pastry brush. So we're going to do that as well because we are baking along with this video. It's going to take about 400 times as long as it does to spray it with cake release spray, but such is life. We're doing this forever.
First I'm going to mix together the dry ingredients. So I have my cake flour.
Cake flour and corn flour.
2 teaspoons of baking powder.
2 teaspoons of baking powder, that's that one.
I love this photo in the book, can I just say? And I love the wisps of smoke in the candles.
I have this.
Amazing are these candles. No top stylist after we found them.
Baking powder, salt, what we can do. Kosher salt is slightly less powerful than regular salt. It's a bit more subtle, so you might want to reduce the salt content if you're using regular salt.
So this recipe has powder and soda in it because
bicarbonate of soda.
A little bit of baking soda just neutralizes and reacts with some of the acid in the buttermilk.
Claire is always full of fantastic tips like this. She was classically trained in Paris, so she is an incredibly talented baker. Okay, dry ingredients mixed.
Now I'm going to start creaming together the butter and sugar. So, granulated sugar.
Granulated sugar, not caster.
aka 1 cup, aka 8 ounces. 226.
226. And again, this is at room temperature, and it's quite a warm day here today, although not apparently as warm as it was in New York when Claire made this video.
So at this stage, I actually add the oil along with the butter because it's an opportunity to combine all the fats and the sugar. It's just enough to give the layers a little bit of extra moisture and keep things like pliable and soft at room temp. So I'm going to blend it together on low for starters. I mean, the mixture already looks pale, but I want it to get super light and fluffy. So this is an important step in the cake baking process because this is a step that is going to lighten the batter. What happens is the sugar crystals, they're sharp. They have this crystalline structure, they have sharp edges. When they get beaten against the side of the mixer by the paddle, the sugar crystals cut into the butter and create these little air pockets. Then that air is providing leavening to the cake. So I'm going to let that go for several minutes until I see something really pale and fluffy. So this mixture looks really nice. You can see
so if I lift this up now, hopefully you can see that this has got really, really pale. So I'm just going to give it a quick scrape on the beater here. And obviously I'm using my creaming beater, which is the one that scrapes the sides of the bowls, which does make my life a lot easier. But if you don't have one of these, you may wish to just stop the mixer regularly and give the bowl a little scrape. And this is a very soft mixture because we've got that additional oil in there as well. And it does look quite grainy, but that will be the granulated sugar rather than the caster sugar. So don't panic if yours is looking like that too. You know, if you've decided to bake along with Claire as well. And let's see what to do next.
So I'm going to put the mixer more on medium and then add the eggs and yolks one at a time. You want to add the eggs slowly because you want to give it a chance to emulsify into the batter.
Okay, so I've got 5 egg yolks and 2 whole eggs.
And you can increase the speed after you add the egg, like slow it down with the addition and then speed it up.
Okay, so one gorgeous smooth mixture with eggs added. What is next, Claire?
Okay, so now it's time to start adding my wet and dry ingredients. Besides the yolks and the butter, like vanilla is the flavor of this cake. So use a good quality extract. I'm gonna eyeball that.
So that's going into the buttermilk.
So with this amount of flour and this amount of buttermilk plus vanilla, I will do 3 additions of flour. So you don't want to add all of this to the batter because you can disrupt the emulsion. It's going to not produce the texture you want. So we alternate the wet and dry ingredients, but you start and end with dry. So I eyeball about 1/3. And then at this stage, you want to mix really only on like low speed, just until you see most of the flour start to disappear. And then I'll add half the buttermilk mixture.
So that's about 1/3 of the flour, and we're just going to wait for it to disappear. The great thing about the Kenwood K-Mix over the KitchenAid that Claire's using is it does have a much wider speed range. So I can mix even slower than she can, and it has slow starts as well, so it doesn't just turn on, it kind of starts from nothing and builds up to the speed you've put it on. Anyway, half the buttermilk mixture. Do you see how gloopy that is? That's where the acid has basically reacted with the milk and separated. So again, mixing on low speed until that's mixed in. Half of this flour, and again, just mixing this very, very slowly until that flour has kind of all but disappeared into the mixture. We talk about this all the time, but we don't want to over mix it once we've put flour in, because of course then we start activating the gluten, and gluten is what gives bread that elasticity and that kind of structure, and we don't want a bread-like structure in a cake. So I'm now going in with the rest of that buttermilk and then remaining flour. Okay, so that's everything in and everything mixed. I'm going to give everything a scrape and listen to what Claire has to say about what we should do next.
When you cut into a cake and you pull a slice out, it's nice to have like really even flat layers. So the best way to do that is to weigh out the amount of batter.
Okay, so I have a bowl. Is this bowl going to be big enough? Okay, so mine weighs 1,399 grams, or 1.399 kilograms, which works out to 466 grams per pan. Too much. Close enough. 467. So there's one. 465. I don't think that maths adds up, but never mind. So they are equal. I'm covered in cake mix. Now what, Claire?
With your count spatula, you're going to go in and just smooth the layers really well. And just work it out evenly from the center. And then once you get to the edges, you can start to smooth and rotate. And I go right up flush with the sides of the pan.
Should I be concerned that her mix looks thicker than mine? Okay, so my 3 cake mixes are in the pans. They are almost pretty much level.
Yeah, so these are going to go in the oven. I'll show you how. I'll actually show you how, but first I'll...
Oh yeah, she gets really technical now about how to put them in, but essentially what you want to do is allow air to circulate around your pans. I have a tiny oven, so I pretty much just have to make do, but she has in that tiny kitchen, she has a huge oven, so a little bit jealous.
Okay, so when I put one in, I put one in and then I close the door and then I put the other 2 in rather than leave the door open because then the temperature is going to drop really dramatically.
Now that's actually a really good tip, and this is why I don't understand those, those kind of slide and hide oven doors that are really, I keep looking at the monitor, I'm talking to you. You know those slide and hide ovens that Bake Off popularised and now everyone is obsessed with owning? I don't understand what's good about that, because obviously when you preheat your oven, when you open the door, a lot of that heat escapes and therefore your oven drops in temperature. So for me, when I'm putting cakes or anything in the oven, I open in, close as quickly as I can. The last thing I want to do is put the oven door completely out the way, allow all of that heat to escape. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I just have a really rubbish oven that can't maintain a temperature. But yeah, anyway, I'm getting distracted. Now, obviously, this is an American cookbook, so basically we need to preheat the oven to 350 Fahrenheit. So I need to now work out what that is in Celsius. 350 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius. So 176.7, so essentially 180. Now I bake in a fan oven, so is that an issue? Oven racks and the lower and upper thirds of the oven preheat to... It doesn't say. I personally would normally bake my cakes at 160, and the standard rule is if you are using a fan oven, you bake at 20 degrees less than if you were baking in a conventional oven. So if it's 180 conventional, it's 160 fan, and that would make sense for cakes. So I think I'm going to go with my gut instinct on this, and I'm going to bake these at 160. And it says to bake them for 30 to 35 minutes. So I guess I'm going to go and pop these in the oven, and then we'll move on to the next part of the recipe. Okay, so the cakes are in the oven, and I've got all my ingredients ready for the frosting, and I've had a bit of a tidy up. So let's see what we have to do next.
Okay, so I'm making this in a stand mixer. You could do it in a hand mixer. And as far as ingredients, very straightforward. A pound of cream cheese, room temp, 2 sticks of butter at room temp, 6 ounces of unsweetened chocolate, that's very important, unsweetened, kosher salt, a pound of powdered sugar, and a little vanilla. Then for decorating, we got these guys, little sprinkles.
Mine are downstairs.
So the first thing I want to do is melt the chocolate.
I did that already. Skip!
And so I'm sort of not following my own guidance here.
What?
The cream cheese is a tiny bit.
Don't say that.
If you have one that's slightly colder than the other, like I do here, start with just the colder of the 2 in your stand mixer. So the cream cheese is already salted, but I like to add a little additional salt. So a pinch of salt. And now with only the cream cheese in here, I'm going to just start beating it with the paddle. I just want it to be smooth and really creamy. It's mostly free of lumps.
Okay, so free of lumps is what we're looking for. Are we free of lumps? Maybe a bit longer. I also don't know how British Philadelphia compares to American Philadelphia. I'm going to assume that's fine. What do I do next?
Set my timer. All right, hit the pause button. I'm going to rotate the pans.
Do I need to rotate my pans? Where's my timer? I just have about 10 minutes to go. We're fine. We're going to keep going. Claire, what now?
Oh my god. Oh my god, this cake is done. Guess we're not rotating them.
So, as I said earlier on in the video, this is what we call day 3 energy. Things go wrong in the kitchen, and I think it's really important actually that people recognise that even experienced bakers have issues. And I love that Claire leaves these in her videos, because actually it's really reassuring to people who perhaps aren't very experienced that these things happen to everyone.
All right, so I have my paddled cream cheese. All right, so now that that's smooth, I can add the butter. And I'm gonna add it just a couple tablespoons at a time because I want to incorporate it little by little.
A couple of tablespoons at a time, she said. It was looking pretty lumpy there for a few minutes. I was a little bit concerned, but we seem to be getting somewhere. It's very loose. And because I don't often make cream cheese frosting, I have no idea if that's normal or wrong. And as I say, I don't really know how it compares to, like the cream cheese compares to American cream cheese, because I'm sure I must have eaten cream cheese in America. But I can't say I was really paying that much attention to it.
I'm gonna add my
powdered sugar now.
Powdered sugar now. One thing
that's not powdered sugar, that's vanilla.
I don't have to measure the powdered sugar, which is something I kind of hate doing because it just goes everywhere.
That looked what, about a tablespoon?
And in this recipe, it just takes an entire 1 pound box. Just add that directly to the bowl, all at once. Then
all in one go. You'll notice we didn't sieve, which I previously talked about in videos. I always sieve. I shouldn't need to do this because I have slow start. I love this mixer.
Once it's incorporated, you can take the towel off. And now I'm gonna just slowly mix it. And now I can really start to make the frosting by whipping this all together.
I'll show you. It's like, that can't be right, surely. Claire, what are you saying?
You can over whip frosting. Basically what happens is you get so much air into it that the air pockets become really big, and then you have a hard time smoothing it.
I mean, hers looks runny, but it's so not as runny as mine.
Like, turn on the mixer and then walk away, but you do want to work some air into it. All right, this looks good. Now I'm ready to add my chocolate mixture.
It's definitely thicker than mine. I don't think it's getting any better, guys. I've done a bit of Googling, and basically it's really not telling me what to do at all. It's suggesting I could put some corn flour in, but Claire's is thick. Mine is not. I'm actually going to go in and add the chocolate and see if that helps. It won't, but it can't get any worse, let's be honest. And actually, as the chocolate continues to cool and stiffen, you never know, it might help. I know you guys love it when things... Oh, now my cake's are ready as well, tremendous. I know you guys love when things go wrong in videos, so hopefully you're enjoying this. It's not my favourite, but again, like I said just before, it's good for everyone to see that actually things do go wrong. So I'm going to put this on to mix into my cream cheese liquid. And while it's doing that, I'm going to go and get my cakes out of the oven. Okay, so my cakes have baked and they're out of the oven. I switched to the whisk attachment to see if that would actually help the frosting stiffen up, and possibly fractionally, but not really. My online research has suggested that the cream cheese can melt if it gets too warm, and obviously the butter can too. And it is pretty warm in here, but I know that Claire filmed her video in the middle of a massive heat wave in New York, so I don't see why mine would look so much more melted than hers. But I think it's 24 degrees in here right now, which isn't exactly heat wave weather. So what I'm thinking, well, I'm going to see what Claire does next. But it might be the case that while the cakes are cooling, I'm going to pop this in the fridge and see if that helps to, and perhaps give it a regular mix. But anyway, we'll see what Claire does.
One thing you can do, if you feel like you've overbeaten
Oh, this is so much thicker than mine.
Take maybe like a quarter cup of it, melt it in the microwave, and then mix it in.
I don't think that's an issue.
See how there's just tons of air bubbles that you can see, like there? It's like that's been a little overbeaten. Melted it. See how it's darker than the rest of the frosting? So it's like, theoretically, there's no more air in it. And that's why I think it's going to work. I'm going to make a huge mess by the end of this. I feel like that worked, sort of. Maybe not. I don't know. We're just going to go with it. Things aren't exactly happening the way I was hoping for this episode, but that's all right.
I mean, she has literally just melted a quarter of her mixture and it's still thicker than mine. So clearly something is afoot. I'm going to take my cakes out of the pans, put them onto cooling racks, let them cool, put this in the fridge, and while all that's going on, have a little break, cool down, maybe get some airflow in here, and then we'll come back together for the assembly part of the make. So the cakes do look absolutely gorgeous. I'm also feeling like I must be a lot bigger than Claire, because everything in her kitchen looks absolutely huge compared to me. Like I was looking at her cakes, I was sure she was going to say they were 9 inches, and she said 8, and yet mine are 8, and they look so much smaller than hers. But anyway. Okay, so it's been about 2.5 hours, and I was checking my cream cheese frosting about every half an hour or so, and it wasn't really doing anything. So I ended up adding some corn flour, and when I say some, I mean about 4 tablespoons. But it does mean that it has now thickened up. It's almost mousse-like now, but at least I should be able to work with it. I'm going to give it a final beat with the paddle attachment just to try and smooth out any kind of bubbling or anything, and then we're going to just crack on with the video and hope that we get somewhere. Okay, so it's still a lot smoother than I would hope. I've done a bit of research actually, and it seems that cream cheese frosting, the blocks that we saw Claire using in her video, they contain a lot less water. So essentially you can almost work with them like we work with butter, making buttercream here in the UK. Some of the blogs and things I've been looking at while I've been waiting for everything to cool and set and stuff suggest that the best way to make a cream cheese frosting here in the UK is essentially to just make a buttercream and then add cream cheese to it right at the end, so that you get that hit of cream cheese, you get that tanginess, but you don't allow the icing sugar a chance to just dissolve into all the water that's in the cream cheese, essentially giving you slop or liquid soup, which is what I had. But we're going to crack on, as I say, so let's see what Claire says to do next.
The bonus of leveling a cake is that you then get to taste the cake scraps and determine if you did a good job or not. So it's just like little snacks that you can munch on. So I have a serrated knife. They make special knives for this, but any bread knife should be fine. You want something long enough that you can slice through the cake.
Or you buy an egg bay. Okay, time to assemble the cake.
Now I have my level layers, I have my frosting, and I have my cake stand. And I have these pieces of parchment paper that I cut and I placed them on
can do
top
that.
of the cake stand around the sides with a little opening in the center, and this is going to protect the cake stand from like drips of frosting or little smears while I do the frosting.
I'll be bothered. So I like to add a little bit of the frosting onto the stand first of all, just because it just holds everything in place. Not a huge amount, just a touch. If you remember, I talked before about using a Lazy Susan when you are assembling a cake right onto a cake stand, because it means you can spin it round like you are using a turntable essentially. So Claire takes her first layer of cake and places it cut side down onto the stand. So now I'm going to get a really crummy stand just to prove me wrong for not using that greaseproof paper. And then we're just applying a layer of frosting.
So now I'm going to add, I would say, approximately 1 cup of chocolate frosting.
Gosh, that's quite a lot.
Right on top of the layer.
Okay.
So go ahead and smooth that across the surface of the cake.
And maybe that's too much. I feel like it's too much. And then we're going to go on with the next layer of cake. And then I say this all the time, but Claire does it too. Actually get down to the height of the cake and have a look at it from all angles, just to make sure everything is nice and even. Okay, and then same again. By the way, we need to see that mine are definitely not as deep as hers. Very strange, but anyway, same again. And there is the final layer of cake. I'm looking at the picture of the finished cake in the book, and I'm looking at this right now, and they are just... I don't even know, like, what is going on. Same recipe, same ingredients, same method, and yet hers, I swear, look, a different size and a different depth.
So now I'm going to frost the entire cake in a very, very thin layer. But it's not going to be the final layer of frosting. It is something called a crumb coat.
Crumb coat time! Can we see all of this oozing out?
This frosting looks all weird.
I'm right there with you. It does look weird.
I like to start on the top of the cake and then work the frosting down the sides toward the bottom.
I don't do that. That's a very American way of frosting a cake.
How lopsided is it? Does it look crazy? I've been having an inner ear problem.
We have bulging. There is bulging happening, which usually means you've got too much filling, but I don't have that much filling. I just have very loose, soft filling, which now it's back in the heat of the studio under the lights. It's getting softer by the second. And yeah, okay, what's next? Scraping, excellent. I'm going to use one of my trusty plastic PME smoothers. And we're literally just going to hold that flush to the side of the cake, whiz around, and take off this excess. Can we see how soft this is? Oh, dearie me. I did not expect to have this much trouble, I'll be honest with you. I expected I was going to make a cake and I was going to try it and be like, oh my god, this is the best cake I've ever made in my life. Not that I would be trying to smear chocolate soup onto the side of a cake. And again, this is no shade at Claire. Oh dear, I'm not doing a very neat job of this either. This is no shade at Claire at all. Obviously, we've realised that cream cheese frosting has to be entirely re-recipeed to be made in the UK. And then we're going to put this in the fridge, Claire. Tell me we're going to put this in the fridge.
All right, I'm going to chill this down. Seriously going to go stick it in front of my AC window unit.
Fridge.
Then we can apply the final layer of frosting. And thank God we have sprinkles to cover up this mess.
Okay, I'm going to go and put this in the fridge, in that case, for... Normally I'd say like 20 minutes, but I honestly don't know. I'm also going to put this back in the fridge as well because I think it needs all the help it can get. So yeah, I'll see you guys shortly. Okay, so it's been about half an hour. This frosting has not remotely set up at all. So we're just gonna roll with it. At least I'm not alone in my disasters. Claire's having disasters, I'm having disasters. Disasters all round.
The first. Okay, so I'm just adding a bunch more frosting to the top. Same technique, letting it
Bunch more frosting.
all over the sides.
I have so much frosting. I hate frosting like this. It's not how I do it. You've got to be careful that you don't actually end up taking too much frosting off again while you're trying to smooth. I always worry that if this is the first video somebody sees on my channel, they're just going to think that I'm not very good at baking, like, and why bother subscribing? Please do watch other videos. Okay, we're getting somewhere. What do we need to do to finish?
And I'm keeping it very rustic looking because this is not the kind of frosting, at least not the way that I made it, that's going to smooth into this like really glossy, non-textured surface.
So she's gone for a rustic finish. Can I go for a rustic finish? If I go for a rustic finish, he says, now I've spent ages trying to smooth it, it might actually at least look more like hers on the video. Not necessarily like the book, but we're baking along with the video, so I don't see, yeah, yeah. This is it, we're on to a winner. Right, Claire, sprinkle time.
Weirdly challenging today. Okay, the last step is the saving grace. You can cover this whole thing in
I
sprinkles.
have sprinkles.
I feel like the sprinkles are just like a distraction. It's like it will distract from any other kind of issues that you're having on the cake. Let's just take this whole episode and forget everything that happened.
She's like full on going ham on these sprinkles. What do we think? Is that enough?
As far as the sides go, you can kind of like throw them at the sides of the cake.
Okay, do I want to throw some sprinkles at the side? I might. I'm gonna make such a mess. If this falls off now, I literally will just. I'm gonna be finding sprinkles on the floor for the rest of time, aren't I? It's just gonna be sprinkles everywhere. You know, I think that might be as good as it's gonna get, so
Alright, so I'm gonna undowel it.
I didn't down
The
mine.
cake doesn't fall apart.
See what I mean though? Hers looks so much bigger than mine. We're gonna cut.
That felt pretty good actually. Okay. Oh! Looks good
She now
though.
has set up a bit because I have a lot of frost. Let's stop asking questions.
I got nervous.
If I put the two next to each other, can you see that mine is definitely a lot thinner? I mean, I did level the tops, but I didn't take off much. It did cut beautifully. Gonna give it a try.
It's just really hot. But I have to say, the cake, I think one thing you can see from the way that the cake cuts is that it's so tender and it has such a nice, delicate crumb. I just think it's like the ideal yellow cake. It is perfect for any kind of celebration. I don't think there's anyone who wouldn't like this cake as the base of a layer cake.
The cake is beautifully light, I will give her that. It is so soft. And actually, you can see, although the frosting is so loose, it has managed to, sorry, I'm putting it here, like you're over there. It has managed to at least retain those distinct layers. It hasn't just like soaked into the cake. Frosting wise, I feel like I've lost the tang of the cream cheese. And I don't know if that's maybe because of the corn flour that I added to try and rescue the soup. But I kind of feel like I want to give this another go. Now I know about adding the cream cheese at the end. But yeah, very soft, very light, really tasty, don't get me wrong. The balance of kind of the sweet and everything is lovely. But yeah, clearly something wasn't right for me today when it came to the rise. And again, obviously, well, we all know my dramas with the frosting. I'm going to cut a piece for Bobbit, see what he thinks.
Oh, that looks good.
Okay, so we had some issues, but well, you eat and tell me what you think.
What's the flavour?
It's yellow cake, which is just like it's like a vanilla sponge but made with more yolk than like whole egg. And then it is supposed to be a chocolate cream cheese frosting, but I had some issues. Are we going to get beyond one-word answers today? He's still eating.
It's nice. It's not. It doesn't like hit you as being chocolate.
Do you get the tang of the cream cheese? Because I'm more. Oh, you do. Okay. I might have just become immune to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
And the
and
sponge is nice and soft.
would you say it is the perfect birthday cake? If I served you this on your birthday, would you be happy?
I would be more than happy with this.
Okay, well there we go. You can take that. Thank you, Bobbit. I think that's the most words we've had out of him so far, guys. Progress. So there we go. He agrees with Claire that this is the perfect birthday cake. So I have to say, when I saw that her video was called that, I had my doubts. I was like, we have to put this to the test, but the ultimate taste tester has agreed this is the perfect birthday cake. And can you imagine how much better it would be if I actually had made it successfully? So there we go. That was me baking along with Claire Saffitz, dessert person, her perfect birthday cake, which is taken from her book, also called Dessert Person, and it's the recipe for the classic birthday cake. If it's your first time seeing Claire, then I will, as I said earlier on, I will link her channel down in the video description because her videos are absolutely amazing. She is an incredibly talented chef, and I love watching her. She was definitely my favourite thing about the Bon Appetit kitchen, and I love that she is now out and showing off her amazing skills in her own right. If you did enjoy this video, as always, please do give it a big thumbs up down below, and if it's your first time watching a video here on my channel, do make sure you hit that big red subscribe button before you go as well. If you'd like to receive a push notification every time I upload a new video, you can also hit the bell icon. Please don't fall over on a video, that would be really embarrassing. I've totally lost my train of thought. Yes, if you'd like to receive a push notification every time I upload a new video, which incidentally I do every Sunday at 10 AM, then do hit that bell icon as well. Other than that, I'm going to wrap things up here and finish my slice of cake, and I will see you guys at the same time next week for another video. Until then, take care, and of course, happy baking. Bye.